Hi there! Welcome to another virtual Create and Sip painting tutorial. My name is Coleman. I'm going to be painting Sunset Dandelions with you tonight. A few things that we're going to need before we get started is one canvas, some paint, and some brushes. Now if you've gotten your Creates to Go kit with me, your painting canvas should be in through there, which you should have one that is already sketched up for you. It's got the background painted for you there, and then you should have inside of that also your paint. Now this is a very simple paint palette for this painting, so you should only have white, yellow, black, and red. Now if you're painting with your own supplies, you can more than welcome to paint along with us. If you've got your brushes and those color paints. Now if you have gotten your painter's pack through us, you will have a set of brushes as well as a palette that you can use, and that should keep you painting for quite a while. Now something else that you're going to need from home is a jar of water and some extra paper towels. I like to have a few on hand here with me, and a nice little thing to keep your brushes from rolling around. Something else I like to have on hand that helps me out is a little mister, an atomizer. It just does a little spritz. It helps with doing onto your canvas as well as onto your paints to keep those wet. Even after storage, you can mist your water or your paints down, saran wrap them, and then use them another day. So if we've got everything we need, the other things we're going to need is, while we create, we're going to need our sips. So if you've got your sips, I've got my adult sips. I've also got my responsible sips here. So if you need to grab anything, go ahead and press pause and grab whatever else you may need. And if you're ready to go, well then let's get started. Now because this is virtual, I won't be able to respond to any of your comments or anything, so if you do need to, if I'm moving too fast, you can always pause or rewind and then catch back up. So no worries on that. I'll try and take my time, and I'll try and explain everything that you may need to worry about, or hopefully we'll talk about any concerns that you may have to deal with. So hopefully the cats may also, you don't need to be thinking about doing that. Let's go over more intensely our supplies. So I've got my paints put here onto the palette. I scooped it out with just an old paintbrush stick that I've got. And then for brushes, you'll have 5 of them in my pack. Really all you're going to need is a large brush, which is larger than all the other brushes, and then you've got, in our pack, you've got 2 square mediums and a filbert, which you can use those throughout, and then a liner brush that we use for some of the detail work. So a few things as you're working is, remember to always keep your brushes clean and out and drying. It's alright if you leave them in the water jar for a little bit, but you don't want to leave them in there for too long, because they will, the bristles will get ruined eventually. So water jar nearby, and I'm going to press over to this next scene here and we'll get started. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got my canvas. Yours that you've got in the kits will come pre-sketched with this tinted background. That's an underpainting so that we can make our colors pop really well on through there. So the lighting that I've got in the studio is not the best, so you may not be able to see everything really all that great to start, but it should look pretty good here after a bit. So one of the first things I'm going to do is we'll be working through on this from the yellow into the red. in through there. Now don't worry too much about painting over your sketch marks there, because you'll be able to see them through the paint. So I'll show you as we get further in through there, and most of those lines are just reference. So as you paint this, you can, if you end up making a mark that you're not the happiest with, maybe that's a great little spot to put a little dandelion bloom there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with taking my large brush, gently massaging it into my water jar, loosen those bristles up, maybe give it a couple taps, and then touch it on your paper towel, get a couple of that. So since we're going to be blending some, I am going to quickly spread some of this water through there. And I'm going to take a little bit of white on one side and some yellow on the other. Oh, don't want to tip and my paint over. Now, as you can see in the example we've got there, the yellow goes pretty much all the way down to the bottom, and then the black that comes up in through there. So Vincent is already wanting to help. Yes, you've got paint on yourself now, son. And we're just going to bring that yellow and white into that background in through there. Now I don't need to come all the way out through my edges through here. There are some spots that I'll want some of that to shine through in that background. I'm just going to work my way through here. And that white and that yellow is really going to help set on top of that brown, earthy tone background we've got through there. That's going to also really help those brighter shades of color really pop through there. I like this painting because you really don't have to have any experience to start painting along. It's a really great introductory painting to mixing colors right on the canvas there. As you'll see, when we go to mix in our red to create our orange, we won't mix orange on our palette. We'll mix right on the canvas there. A little bit at a time goes a long way as we do that. So as we work on this, you'll be able to blend that in. So now I'm going to work my way out towards those edges. Now these are what we call a gallery wrapped canvas, which means that their staples are on the back, not on the sides, so you can paint those as you go. I will most likely paint mine a solid color at the end. I like that because it gives it a nice little frame look, but if you want to wrap that around, you can. So one thing that works really well with these acrylics, especially as I'm going to blend up into now to make my orange in through there, I can grab just a little bit of red. Oop, that's a lot. So I'm going to start mixing that down in. Maybe grab a little bit of water, knock some of that off on my paper towel there. And then just pull that down into the yellow. That'll make that nice orange color. So I've got that bit of bright red there. So I'm just going to grab some yellow and start mixing that right in through there. So if you're painting along with someone, do be careful as you get painting out towards your edge. You're going to get a little splitter splatter onto their painting. But if you do, just let them know. Say, hey, look, I made your painting better. If they disagree, usually you can wipe this paint off with wet paper towel. Or if you're going to be painting it over the top of it, don't worry about it. Just paint over the top of it. So I've got a little bit of yellow and red now in on my brush, and so I'm just going to be mixing those in through there. And you can really make this sunset yours as you paint this in. We've got just the yellow and the red that we're going to be working with. You can grab a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and just make your own little orangish colors. You can add a little bit of white in through there too, and start getting some nice peachy colors too. So you just play around with those colors as we work our way up to the top to create a brighter red. Now if you pick up any colors that you are laying down later, you can always say that that's a cloud in through there. But as you blend these colors, you really don't want to go from like up here to right straight down here, or else you'll get a dark colored mark through there. You can make that work for you. If you do have that happen, you know, as I was saying, you can make that into a cloud. Same as if you pick up a little yellow and put that up into the top up here. I'm going to gradually start grabbing some more red. Just a little bit more yellow down in through here. Right on up to the top, and if you're painting your edges, don't forget to get that top edge. And as we paint down into the bottom there, we can paint that bottom edge through there too. This is looking very nice. So as you work on this, don't forget to take a step back every once in a while, see how those things look from a distance. Things do look a little bit different from, well, actually a lot different from a distance than they do a few feet away that you're going to be working on it or looking at it. Make my edges around this way here. Change my mind. That's something you can always do through your paintings, is change your mind how you want it. It's looking pretty good in through there. Now, if you want to go with slightly darker purple or red up in through there, you can let that dry and then just put another coat on. But one thing that I usually don't suggest, but with this one you can't, since our only other colors that we've got is black and white. You can grab just the teeny tiniest smidge of black, just the smallest amount. You can barely even see that on the brush there, can you? Mix that right into the red. So starts bold. As you mix that and blend that in through there. Again, you want just a little bit. A little bit goes a very long way. You can see how that's already a little bit darker right through there. So I'm going to grab a little bit for this other side. Maybe just a tad bit more. Yeah. So I like it just a little bit darker up the top because it does a really nice job of kind of bringing that darker bottom up to the top without, or mirroring that bottom where it's dark up to the top there. Because we'll be getting a lot of contrast down in through the bottom here where we put in, we'll be doing red next for our grasses and our base coats of our dandelions, and then we'll be doing black in over the top of those. So as we get our background done, again, take a step back, see how it looks from a distance. Pull your thumb out if you need to. Take a sip if you need to. And if you like it, well, let that dry. And then we'll come in and we'll do the next bit there. So as mine's kind of drying kind of fast here. It's a little warm here in the studio, as you may be hearing the air conditioner. But as we work along, again, if you feel like you're falling behind, you can always press pause, rewind, and then fast forward, catch back up. So while I let that dry, I think I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. I am going to rinse my brush out. Then you can do that by just gently massaging the bristles down in the bottom of the water jar. And then wipe it across your paper towel. Now the one thing you don't want to do with your brushes is grab and pull the paint or the water out with your paper towel, because what you can do is you can break the bristles off at the ferrule, the little metal part here. So as you do that, you can just wipe your paper towel or your brush onto your paper towel. And as long as you're not getting any paint on there, then your brush is clean. Now sometimes as you get a lot of colors into your water jar there, you may get some tinted water, but as long as you're not getting any paint on off your brush onto your paper towel, you're pretty good to go. So the next step that we're going to use is going to the next step that we're going to be doing is going to use our medium brush. So you're welcome to use any one of those medium brushes, whichever one you feel the most comfortable with. But I do want something that's going to give me a slightly wide brush stroke. Now the nice part about these brights, flats, and ferrules is that you've got the narrow edges of these also. So as you paint along with these, you can make a brush stroke across using that wide edge and then even twist it to create then a narrow line. So if you've ever done calligraphy or anything like that before, you're familiar with that line technique. But as you paint with these dandelions and grass blades in through there, you'll definitely get a chance to practice using those brushes to create those kind of marks. So just play back and forth with those and see which ones you like. And there's no wrong way to paint. As long as you like what you got going on there. And if you don't like it, you can always, wipe it off or let it dry and paint back over the top of it. Or if you absolutely need to, just let it dry, gesso over the top, and start over. It's not bad to have to start over. And not all the times are paintings, all done, from the get-go. A lot of times an artist will start a painting and then change it later, or come back in and paint over the top to fix some things. So don't think that you've got to, be able to knock it all out in one go. Not even think that you're got to knock it all out in 2 hours. This is a nice fun painting. It should take us, more than 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to paint through. But if it takes you a little longer, that's quite all right. If you work on it and then tomorrow you're like, I want to touch this up, go ahead and do it. Now the hardest part, I will tell you, is knowing when to say when. It's really easy to go too far on a painting and wish you hadn't made that last final little brush stroke there. So do be cautious on that end. Again, don't forget to take a step back every once in a while, but don't be your worst critic and think that you've got to make it touch everything up. And the more you get into painting, the more detailed you'll get, and the more steadier and trusting of your hand that you'll have. So for this next step, as I said, we're going to be using a medium flat brush. So this is the number 6 flat that I'm using here. And I'm going to start in with some red, and I'm actually going to load my brush up a little bit on both sides. And you should still be able to see those lines underneath your paint. So I'm going to start with some of my taller dandelions, and I'm just going to start by making fairly not too wide of a brush stroke, but I'm using that narrow edge for that. And as I get those stalks in, I can come in and put the little parachute things that they've got there. I don't recall what those names are. And you can do some of these little smaller ones. And I'm just doing little lines and little T's for these. You can put the little bits out on here. Now we're going back in with black in over some of this. Now if you think that you're getting them too wide, you can go to a smaller brush. You could even go to your liner brush if you want to. Just because I'm using this brush doesn't mean you have to use this brush too. So the one thing I want to do with these little puff balls here is I do want to fill in the center just a little bit more. And I might come back in and add some more red in on top of that later here. So I can start maybe with a couple little blades of grass out through here. And you'll notice as I pull this down, I can pull down and then move sideways. And the same. And as you kind of lift up and let those bristles pull away, you can get a little taper. If you need to at times, you can grab a little bit of water on your brush, a little bit of paint, and that thins that paint down enough to where it'll draw a line a little bit better. So I'm going to go in and start filling in my dandelion blooms, little parachutes, balls, little puff balls, little blades of grass out through there. I hope everyone out there is doing all right. You know, it's been tough on everyone through this situation. I hope that none of you have had to deal with the extreme unfortunates of it. You've had a good summer. This is a good painting. Kind of think about a good summer. Warm days, dandelions out in the yard, ice cream. Yeah. Around here it's the lakes and rivers. A little too warm and humid for bike rides. In the mornings it's nice. Now down here at the bottom, you don't have to make every blade of grass. You can actually do a little faux fill in on some of this. So I'm going to bring this left side and right side up a little higher than the center. So it'll create kind of this little U shape or V shape down in through here. And it'll actually create kind of a triangle or a diamond there in the canvas there. So that's kind of the composition of the piece there. And if you need to, you can rotate your canvas around to get to some of those edges. Sometimes what I'll do is flip my canvas over and then pull everything down. And while I have that, I go ahead and paint my bottom edge. Little puff ball there. As you get a feel for your brush, you'll be able to pull those little blades quite easily. As you paint along, you'll actually be surprised at how quickly your brushes will wear down. And as you get to paint a lot, I highly recommend experimenting and trying new brushes, and definitely spend a little bit of extra money on brushes. You will thank yourself. I mean, it's all right to start with some cheap brushes, but once you get going, they'll last you a while. So don't think that paying you know, $8 to $30 for a single brush is a lot, because those brushes, you know, are worth the money. So some better on that side. Bottom edge there. Love the contrast that this gets with that red and then the black on top of that yellow. Just super striking. That's what makes this painting just really, really nice, really pleasing to look at. Is that contrast, those warm colors. They just scream summer. And it kind of looks like fire, right? And if you get that illusion, it's okay. Go with it. Now you can have as many or as few of the little puff balls out through there. This is your little field of dandelions and grasses. And if you want to make some of those tips a lot sharper, you can use one of those edges of your brush to then create a finer little line if you need to. I'm not too worried about that with the red here, because this is all kind of an underpainting itself for that black to then stand on top of. So I'm going to check my edges, got all that, make a little orange over on this side. No, I said I was going to paint it with solid color, but I changed my mind. And rotate this around without getting too much paint on my fingers. So if you need to, you can take and hang, you know, if you've got an easel, hang it off the top there with the stretcher bars on the back so that your bottom doesn't get, you know, caked and stuck to the easel itself. So that can happen with the wet paint as it dries. If it's touching another surface, it can kind of glue itself to that. So with that, you know, there's a lot of cool things you can do with paint, acrylic paint. If you want to use it for like collaging, to brush over stuff, you can, because it does act as a binder. So let's see, I'm going to come in and darken up some of this red in through here while I wait for some of that up there to dry. And don't worry if you can still see some of your pencil marks through there. They're not actually pencil marks. It's chalk. Smear and blur. Kind of muddies your paint sometimes if you use a pencil, the graphite. If you use chalk or kind of a pastel or Conte, it wipes off. So you can sketch in even over your paint. If you want to draw something in over the top of it to then paint back in over, you can, and then you can wipe that chalk away if it doesn't wipe off with your as you paint over the top. Hit the insides of these a little bit here. Just to darken those up just a little bit more. And then I'm going to grab my medium, or actually my little small brush, little liner brush, round. Let's just brush off first. And I'm going to add some of those little parachutes out through there with that brush. And with that round brush, once you can get it wet, and it should hold its shape if you treat it well, but you can roll that across your paper towel once that's wet for it to then create a little point for you to use. I add a little bit of water to my paint. You pull that off onto the, you see me pull some of that off onto the side there, and a little bit of water to thin that down some. Add the rest of my clam fluffs, little dandelion fluffs, and grab them and make a wish. Now as you paint these in, you can think of that which is closest to you is going to be biggest, and those that are going to be farther away are going to appear smaller. So you can actually do that too with these. You can make some really small ones that look like they're way back out in the distance there. Maybe little ones dancing on the breeze out through there. Two out to here. You don't have to paint them exactly like they are on the sketch if you don't want to. It's your painting. Okay. So now we're just going to let that dry before we get started in with our black. And you can touch up any little spots that you may feel like you need to. Darken these up just a little bit more here. Make them stand out more on that yellow. Once we get this done, this is a great little time to take a little break if you need to. Refresh your sips, your beverage. And if you need to, you can press pause. And then come back. But I will put the bee right back. Sign up for just a minute. Let this dry. I may hit it with my state-of-the-art paint drying system, which some of you may call a blow dryer. That does really a good job of quickly drying this acrylic paint. If you then go in and paint back over the top. So again, you'll take a step back, see how it looks from a distance. Again, the light in this room doesn't quite do justice for the painting here, but I hope you're able to follow along all right. So I'm going to step away and dry this for a moment, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. I've got my painting dry here, and I'm ready for the, it's not the last step, but it's very close to it. And that's just going back in and covering up everything with some black. Now we're not necessarily covering it up. As you can see in the example, that there is some red that can still be seen beyond that black. And what that does is it helps to create some distance in through there, kind of pushing things forward and back as we as you know, moves through space back through there. So I am kind of cheating a little bit. I have a favorite little round liner brush. it comes to a pretty good small point. And I've been using this for a long time now, and the funny part about it is it's one of those really cheap brush sets. If I can find more of these, I'll make them part of my kit. So once I run out of these brushes that I'm putting in the kits now, I'll have some other ones for you. Hopefully, as we get going, I'll be able to provide you with some better brushes each time we get going, and maybe even offer them online to buy, and you can start collecting your own brushes. So as we come back into our painting here, as I said, we're just going to come back over with some black in on top of this. So I'm going to actually start with bringing in some of these lines here. And if you've got a good steady hand and you can use those medium brushes and use the narrow edge of those, you can definitely do that. And not all black lines have to go where you have the red. And don't paint over all of your red. You get some really great effects that'll happen out through there. Sometimes a little bit is a lot, and sometimes a lot works really well. It's alright to just kind of fill in that inside section there. You can see how that black sits on that red. Just everything starts to pop. To line up perfect as you fill these in. If you feel like you need to add a little extra something, go ahead and add a little extra in through there. Again, the hardest part is knowing when to say when, so you don't want to do too much and come to regret it. Now, when it comes to overlapping my grasses and stems and such here, I'm not worried about skipping over. I'm just going to paint through on everything, so as I paint this in, I'm just going to then with this other one. Because these, you don't necessarily have to worry about, what looks like sits in front of the other. They're just black masses that are going to blend together anyway. So you can just paint them through. And that means just drawing that line of paint right straight through all those shapes. And again, you don't have to put them exactly where you have red. You can put it in over some of the yellow. You can let some of that red shine through. And we're just going to fill this little spot here in. You really play with how things will look in through here. Really start to dial things in. So just take your time if you need to, you can add a little water to your paint. If you've got your little spritzer, give a little mist to canvas, a little mist to your paint. But the water will help to thin your paint down just a little bit, especially as you're using, this liner brush to help make that paint just flow right off the bristles. So in some of these spots where, yes, I was a little messy and my lines were a little faded at the top there, or faded, they're just a little blurry back there in the distance. And you just kind of make it up as you go. And you don't have to fill in everything. Let some of that yellow and red come through the black. Pull some nice long blades of grass. I still want to try and keep this V shape in through here. And so I'm going to start in on some of these smaller, farther away puffballs. That one just escaped. Just like that. Little breeze kicked up that little parachute, pulled it away, a little seed in the wind. Here kicks on, talking about wind. So as I showed before in turning it upside down to paint some of those lines, if you need to, if it's harder for you to pull those lines up, or get a thin line starting up at the top, flip that painting around if you want to. There is no true right way to do some of this, so whatever you find that works easiest for you is good. And then, share that knowledge with others, because they may have been looking for an answer to what you just, did. So for me, it's nice to pull down, and then you can just a little flick to make a little point. Hit all of my little puffy balls, and then I can fill in grass. Just zone out as you make those. So art and painting and just creating sometimes is really nice, because as you get going, you get just in the zone, and it's nice because you lose track of time. And look up, and whole day has gone by, or a few hours felt like just a few minutes. Well, hello there, kitten. Come here, buddy. You want to help? Oh, this is Picasso. Say hi, buddy. You just wanted to get up there and drink the water out of the paint jar. I know you. I already got water set out for you someplace, so go find it. You want paintbrushes to play with. Here, for my stir stick. Okay. Back to the painting. fill these puffballs in. Just little starbursts of lines. And then like a little T. Make little seed parachutes up through there. I do want to be careful as I work across, that way I don't end up dragging my finger through wet paint. I'll usually use my pinky as a kickstand to hold my brush steady as I make a line across. I guess while I'm here, go ahead and just cut that bottom edge real quick. And I'm not being too cautious with the bottom edge too, because I still want some of that red to shine through down there. It'll kind of wrap that image around the edge of the canvas. You do want to be careful using that small brush. You want to treat your little liner brushes very, very gently. Try not to splay those bristles on them around too much. And they will do you good for quite a while. When you wash your brushes, you can add some conditioner to them. Not like hair conditioner, but you can buy some conditioner. You can make some. There's some recipes online to make your own. And you just add it to your brush when you're done washing it, and it helps to hold the shape, and it rinses out when you go to use your brush again. That way it's not just stiff and hard. So you know, when you buy brand new brushes, sometimes they're stiff and you gotta crack them to get them to flex. Well, that's just kind of a conditioner that they've got added to them. Them up, and then you wash your brushes out. Usually when I wash mine, I just use the good old blue dishwashing soap, rub it in my hand, and just kind of give a little circle in through there, and rinse it until no paint or any color comes off onto my hands. And again, you want to be gentle with it as you do so, which is you get the feel for those bristles in your palm. You know, you'll know how hard you're pushing, and you'll get a good feel for your brushes, and kind of create a relationship with them. Treat your brushes good, and they will treat you good. They'll last a good while. Should be surprised, especially with your large brushes, if they'll get short, get a little, start off long, and then end up with little nubs. But if you have that happen, that's good. That means you're painting a lot. Van Gogh even said, you hear that voice inside your head that says, I can't paint. Silence it. Because you can paint. Many people may have been told at a young age that, that's not how you make a cloud, or, that's not how you make art. And I say phooey to all of that. Everyone does something a little different. And, you know, as long as you're having fun and being creative, just have fun and be creative, man. So again, I'm just kind of using a little pull and a flick to get that taper in on these. And they're not even perfect, so as you know, if I bring this up closer, you know, they're not the best end, but from a distance, they'll look great. So again, you know, as you're working on yours, you know, flip this back over if you're working on it upside down, and take a step back, see how it's looking. I rarely sit when I paint. The way I stand, and I'm going to paint at an arm's distance, so I've got already a good little distance between me and my canvas, but I do usually what I call the paintbrush two-step. Take a step back, see how it looks, take a step forward, add the paintbrush to the canvas. Take a step back, take a look, take a step forward, put the brush to canvas. It's paintbrush two-step. Cheesy, I know. So as you get towards the end here, you know, don't rush yourself to get things finished. Take your time. You know, at any point in time you need a little break, your arm gets tired, you know, you're painting at home, things will happen. You know, you can hit that pause button, rewind if you need. Edge here done. Now let that bottom edge dry a little bit, and then I'm going to work on this other large dandelion head there. Let me turn. One of these out the back. Add some marks over the tops of these guys here. It's alright if your painting lines are uneven. You know, one's a little thick, one's a little thin. That'll give some nice change of weight in through there. Give an idea of maybe some shadow being cast. So don't get upset if it's not consistent and absolutely perfect. Bottom there. So this around the side. For those of you that are using the paper that your canvas came in and you're painting on it, now one thing I do caution is if you flip it over don't let the paint dry to paper. Although you can make some really cool effects by pressing the paint down and then lifting it up, while it's still wet. But I don't mean to sidetrack you on anything. Give you more ideas. Okay, so my bottom edge is fairly dry. A couple of specks, but that's all right. Pretty good. If I do say so myself. Hope yours is looking good too. So again, with this big puff ball, I'm going to start with the lines kind of coming from the center. Everything's going to radiate out. But it's that inside spot that I'll just kind of fill in. Some of these major ones first. Little taps on them. Just kind of make a little T. Some people refer to them as little flying nails. I don't ever want to experience a storm that offers that. Different lengths out through there too. The way it makes it look like it's all round. You want to still pull everything as if it's coming from that one central point. And I may have to let that dry just a little bit before I add more. Sometimes as the paint gets a lot on there, you end up pushing around more paint than you end up, trying to lay down. So thankfully this paint dries fairly quickly. So I'm going to just give a quick little rinse, get some of that bulk of the paint out there, and then I'm going to come back in and I can add some of these little finer lines out off the sides. Those up a little bit. Sometimes your brush can get overloaded with paint. You want to be cautious of that because you don't want to push too much paint down towards the ferrule, the little metal part of your brush there. As that fills in, we'll push the bristles apart and you'll get it. It'll end up splaying out. So, if you've ever used someone else's brushes and got like a little solid core in the center of them, they didn't rinse their brushes out very well, or they just let them set and dry, and that paint has then dried in on the bristles there, and it's really hard to clean them out. You can soak them for a while afterwards in some solvents or warm soapy water does a lot for cleaning acrylic paint out of your brushes. But you let them set like that, there's really not a lot you can do without using like harmful chemicals, and you don't want to have to deal with that. So just treat your brushes right and you won't have to deal with it, and you'll always have flat brushes, pointy brushes, all ready for you to paint anytime you need. So let's see, I've got just a few little touch-ups to the blades of grass, I think, and then I'll be ready to put my name on it. So if you're still working on some things, and don't think that because I'm already ready to call it finished that you should be. I just gotta watch myself that I'll start messing around and start filling things in too much and then be not happy with it. I mean, I've never been like so not happy with it. Oh, I have a couple times. To learn a little restraint at times over the years of painting. You do. You get a feeling for it. You just know. You learn to know yourself, and you know when to stop yourself. So let's see. I'm gonna have maybe just a few of these. Yeah, through here. This one coming right around the edge. Right there too. I like that. Way out in the distance there, just a bitty little tee out through there. Yeah. So now, if you are not at the stopping point at the end, I encourage you to continue to paint until you are happy with it. Again, try not to take it to the point where you are not happy with it. But when you are done, if you do have extra paint left over in your paint palette, what you can do is you can spritz a little bit of water on that with your little mister, or if you've got a spray bottle, you could do that, and then just wrap it up with some saran wrap. That moisture will keep that paint wet, so that way you can keep it for another day. You can scoop it back into your little container there. If you've got your own paints, again, you can wrap them up to keep them. Some people throw them in the refrigerator too, but if I know I'm coming back to use them the next day, I'll just give them a little spritz with water, wrap it up, set it to the side, go and wash my brushes, and then bring them back and set it down next to everything, so it'll all be dry and ready for painting the next day. So I do want to thank you for painting with me tonight. I hope your paintings look awesome. I'd hope for you to share those with me, with everyone actually, on our Facebook page or Instagram, in through there, and tell all your friends, and show off your painting, and get a little party together if you want to, and I can paint along with you virtually online, and everyone can paint along with you. But when your painting is dry and ready, then the last step is to sign it. You can sign it any way you want, bottom left, bottom right, sign it on the front, sign it on the back, sign it with a Sharpie marker if you like. That's usually what I do, is Sharpie marker. And then come back and paint along with us next time. So I hope you had a fun time. I know I had some fun painting this lovely scene of some sunset dandelions. I really do love this time of year, and I'm looking forward to fall and those fall sunsets too. So perhaps I'm sure we'll create a lot more sunsets. So thanks for joining me. Have a great night, and we'll paint with you again soon. Bye-bye.